Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture, upload it onto a canvas, and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
The season finale is upon us for the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and we are set to crown a champion in one of the most competitive road racing series on the platform. Two drivers have separated themselves from the field in an effort to settle their year-long duel once and for all tonight. Although Chris Beets and Jesse Webb each have 4 wins apiece, it is Beets who boasts a 21-point advantage into tonight's deciding bout. It all comes down to a 60-minute sprint on the driver-favorite Grand Prix layout at the Suzuka International Racing Course. Never before have the stakes been higher. One race to go, one last chance at victory, and with the championship on the line, who will shine the brightest in the land of the rising sun? This is round 10 of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and it's coming up next live on Pit Stop TV. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the last race of this particular campaign calendar for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, an event in which we all have enjoyed covering on the platform, and tonight is where it all comes to an exclamation point end as we bookend this chapter of a thrilling season, and we will see who reigns supreme. I'm Eric Brennan. Pleasure to be with you on the call of tonight's deciding race for the championship, but I am not alone. We got the all-star team with us here tonight. JP Costa is going to be joining me on the call. Emerson Arden, once again on the production side of the fence tonight, giving you all the sights and sounds you're able to see of tonight's racing action. And, of course, Corey Rexford hitting it out of the park for us across all our social media platforms. Now, speaking of social media, we want to remind all of you to check us out and share us around on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube, especially because we're probably about to see some of the most exciting 60 minutes of competition that we've had all year long. There's a lot of reason why. First one is this racetrack. At JP, first off, welcome to the broadcast. Secondly, I can't think of a better place to settle a championship in GT3 competition than this Suzuka circuit right here.
Well, first things first, thank you for having me back. And obviously, as you said, what a racetrack to do a finale. F1 did it at plenty of years. It was always a thriller, and I'm pretty sure this was the right choice for a finale because we do have quite a few positions to settle, and I'm pretty sure stakes, well, as you said, will never be higher, and I'm pretty sure drivers are going to be pushing the limits of this fantastic racetrack.
And as you can see, this racetrack, 3.61 miles in length, and a lot of unique characteristics about this venue here. And you could tell right off the bat that there are a lot of passing zones. One of the reasons why these drivers will tell you it's a fan favorite, or a driver favorite, I should say, is because it is both technical but also fun as a racer. And it starts in the approach to the first turn, in turn 1. Sweeping right-hander that takes you to the exit of turn 2. And then you get right into the technicality part of this racetrack, through the S's, or as they often call the S curves, through 3, 4, 5, 6. So you get to the Dunlop curve at the exit of turn 7, up to the Degner curve at turns 8 and 9, and then you come down to the hairpin, which is the premier passing opportunity in the mid-sector of this racetrack. You're back up to the high-speed spot through turn 12, all the way up to Spoon curve, which, depending on what track map you see, could be 1 to 2 corners. We're going to call them turns 13 and 14 tonight, and then you're back on the power for a long ways up until you hit that left-handed kink at turn 15, and then down to the Casio Triangle, which may be the last shot to get the job done here for some of these drivers before you come back up on the main straightaway, and that's a lap here at the Suzuka circuit and layout. Now, we've been talking about the championship fight coming into tonight's race, and there's reason for that. One of which is the fact that it's incredibly close. As a matter of fact, we may not be able to crunch the numbers in time to officially determine a champion. There's a lot that goes into how the points are tallied for these races, and we may not know who the champion is per se if certain scenarios were to play out, but we'll do our best to try to play the predictors for you tonight. And we'll first take a look at the pro category, and these are the drivers who actually make up legitimately the majority of our championship picture. At the top of the standings is where you find Chris Beets and Jesse Webb, who each have 4 wins apiece coming into the season. Chris Brunnemer is the only other driver who has gone to victory lane in overall competition this season, and look at that gap from first to third. It's in excess of 280 points, and that is why really Beets and Webb are the only two realistically who have a shot at this championship. Points are on the line for fastest in qualifying. Points are on the line for fastest lap in the race. There are also incident points that could be tallied in after the race is over. And also, there's a drop week that is taken into consideration. So that's the reason for the complication. But we do know that Beets and Webb are the two contenders. But everybody else certainly has something to vie for. And there are a lot of interesting names on this list, JP.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, no, it's closer than ever. We had a few drivers, trying to unsettle, I guess, our two champions, essentially, obviously Jesse Webb and Chris Beets. Last week, Jesse came out on top. You know, we saw some drivers trying to unsettle those two. So, you know, I guess today could be, you know, a very exciting championship because we do have a lot of drivers that are really, really close on lap times in practice and in qualifying. So, well, the championship looks to be settled, but, you know, as you said, the race, I guess the championship is only over when we see the finale, the white flag tonight.
We got a couple of variables we're going to be talking about as well when it comes down to the pro category. Now, this whole top 10 is made up of pro drivers. Let's take a look at the amateur rankings. And these are drivers who the separation was strictly based off of iRating coming into the season. And this initiative by series organizers has been really fun to watch. And here's the reason why. Christian Gurgis owns a 2-point margin over Sven Hartmann, who for the majority of the season was the top running amateur driver before he started to get plagued by some bad luck. He was able to rebound finally at Bathurst last week with a top 10 finish, but it was back-to-back places outside the top 20, or I should say 20th or worse, that lost the advantage that he had built up in the first part of the season. Spencer Vick also 30 markers back. David Flanagan, Alexander King, who if it wasn't for a handful of crashes would probably be right up there contending for this amateur championship. And we'll touch on a little bit more. And JP, this series is offering up incentives and prizes and a couple of giveaways for drivers who place highest in amateur points as well. These drivers have a lot to race for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously the prizes and, well, awards essentially that you get are obviously a bonus, but just, you know, telling people that you won a championship, you know, and overall just a championship that is this close is often amazing. You know, people like the bragging rights, I'd say, in sim racing, and I'm pretty sure that's something that people are going to be putting on their bios on the iRacing, I guess, personal page. And, well, you know, a lot of these guys, I'm pretty sure they're friends, not in real life maybe, but just on the sim, and obviously having that, you know, incentive to beat your friend, obviously beat your rival tonight, it's often, you know, just the best thing in sim racing, I guess.
And as we said earlier, when it came to the pro championship standings, we may not necessarily know exactly who the champion is until we go off air. That's why it's important to make sure that you're tuned in to the Pit Stop TV social media outlets, because that'll be one of the first places you'll be able to see who is officially crowned the champion for both the pros and the amateurs. And it is that tight. As a matter of fact, with all the formulations that are in, I think calculus might be a little bit easier than trying to figure out the champion in these two classes. But we're excited to see how it plays out. Now, speaking of playing out, we're almost halfway through qualifying, and we've got a couple of variables that are starting to creep into this storyline, like the driver who is fastest thus far. That is Nick Ledecky, who coming into this year's competition, our very own Trey Shuttlesworth wrote up a really good press release, kind of as a prelude to this season. And wouldn't you know, the three of the drivers that he named by virtue of their success on the sim were Nick Ledecky, Jesse Webb, and Chris Beets. We thought that was who was going to contend for a championship all season long. But Ledecky has some serious schedule conflicts and has not run all the races. As a matter of fact, Ledecky, even though he's missed a number of races, make that he's missed 3 of the 9 we've run, so a third of the season thus far, he's still in that first bracket of pro drivers. He's actually about 14th in points on the overall side coming into tonight, and he's got a handful of solid finishes this season. He's already been on the podium a couple times. He's had a very quick pace. In fact, 3 races he's finished third. And in the race last week at Bathurst was involved in an early race crash, so trying to rebound from there. But JP Costa, Nick Ledecky has proven that he has had the pace. Remember, he crashed out while leading at Road America earlier this year. Could tonight be the night where he finally gets the one that got away from him earlier in the year?
Well, by the qualifying lap time, it surely looks like it, because, you know, I was looking at his qualifying lap. Obviously, he was following, I guess, the championship, the second place in the championship, Jesse Webb, and obviously that got him in a massive boost. But right now he sits over a 10th of a second ahead, you know, of both championship leaders. And, well, as you said, last week he had a fantastic qualifying session. He was in 4th place essentially at the end of the half lap that, well, unfortunately he crashed out. But his pace is fantastic. He's showing really good pace. Unfortunately, as you said, kind of lack of luck, a few mistakes here and there. Unfortunately, it costed him, but, you know, if he can put a good race tonight, I'm pretty sure he can bounce back and come as a 4th actually race winner for this season.
And right now, he has set that bar pretty low, although Jesse Webb, one of the championship contenders, was able to move on up there a little bit on the timing and scoring charts. And we mentioned, how much goes into trying to determine that championship. Well, for the quick time award here, pole position gets 2 points towards their total. So 21-point mark between Chris Beets and Jesse Webb. If Nick Ledecky happens to capture top honors in the pole here, he's going to steal the chance of grabbing 2 points away from one of the championship combatants. So that's a storyline to keep an eye on, as well as when we get down to the fastest lap of the race. That's 3 points that goes in the bank, of whatever driver can go purple in the duration of our 60-minute contest. So just a couple things to keep our eyes on here as we try to crunch the numbers throughout the night. But also, we talk about the element of wild cards. And last week, the story was that of Trevor Anderson. Now, Anderson had I won't call it shocking, because the performance has been there all season long after collecting multiple top 10s. As a matter of fact, he had 3 of them coming into last week. But Anderson, right here on your screen in the BMW, had a runner-up finish while knocking on the bumper of Jesse Webb at the checkered flag at Bathurst. I would say that it was an incredible job by Anderson to not only be within contention, but also have a shot to win to the final lap. And he definitely turned some heads. Right now, though, not having the best of runs in this qualifying session. He's 1 spot shy of the top 10, currently scored in 11th. But if you want to talk about somebody who could ride a wave of momentum, Anderson may be the guy to do it after that strong second-place finish 1 week ago.
Yeah, exactly. Last week we thought, it was kind of a bit of a fluke, but at the end of the race we saw him pretty much pushing Jesse Webb to his limit, and I'm sure, it could be lack of qualifying pace. Some people just struggle a bit in qualifying, but they can just find themselves on the car, on race pace. Obviously, the car setup talks a lot. But, I'm sure we're going to see Trevor just putting up a comeback drive, essentially. That's kind of what I'm expecting of him, especially in this race. Because, obviously, last week finishing P2, right now sitting, unfortunately, 11th place. Just a tenth of a second shy of the top 10. And, you can easily find a tenth of a second. And during the race, if you can just keep up that race pace, sometimes it's just good. Obviously, finding the strategy points is going to be essential. But I'm sure we can see him climbing a lot of positions.
Absolutely. And he's still got about 6.5 minutes left to try to get the job done here in qualifying. With Ledecky the quickest, now points leader Chris Beets has wedged himself between Ledecky and Webb for second on the timing and scoring charts, with Webb getting kicked back to third. The only other winner on the season, besides the top 2 in points, is actually a driver who's third in the championship standings, and Chris Brunnemer. And Brunnemer was somebody who had an opposite result as to that of Trevor Anderson, as it looks as though Anderson's going to hit the pit lane at least once more before the session comes to a close. But it was Brunnemer who had a 25th place run last week. He's trying to better that and end his season on a high note. And we also talk about variables. We took a look momentarily as Brunnemer's utilizing all the curbing at his disposal here on this lap. We also talked about some of the variables, and we took a quick look at the amateur point standings. How about Christian Gurgis, who is up into the top 5 in this session, just over a half second off the quick time set by Ledecky. You want to talk about somebody who is racing with an agenda, as Jesse Webb gets awfully close to the quick time of Nick Ledecky. But Gurgis is somebody who can play the role of the spoiler here tonight, like what we saw last week with Trevor Anderson. And even though Gurgis is going to come to the line here, we'll see if he can improve on his lap time. No, not at this point. But this is somebody here who has something to race for himself. As of right now, he is one of the only few amateur drivers up into the top 10. Sarah Rabb also back after missing a few races while being on the mend. Happy to see Sarah back in competition. She too carries an amateur banner and is up in the top 10 right now in qualifying. But Gurgis is somebody, though, who's putting himself right up there in the mix. Just got bumped out of the top 5 there, but he could be someone who could be the last driver to turn some heads this season and maybe cap off this season with a victory.
Yeah, exactly, and especially when you see his championship rival Sven Hartmann all the way down in 12th place, which it's an absolutely great position to be in, obviously, for an amateur driver. But, just Christian Gurgis just putting in the lap time when he needs, just currently sitting in P6, and, well, what an amazing lap time. If he can keep this up in the race, he's definitely going to be on for a great result, and obviously a whole bag of points that can help him in his championship charge. Obviously, right now he sits in first place on the amateur class, but if he can keep this up, that's definitely going to be the surprise of the night.
Yeah, so we'll see if that pace, as you mentioned, JP, being consistent throughout is going to be the key for a driver like that of Gurgis, and keeping your nose clean. We highlighted this racetrack earlier in our track description preview as we have about 4 minutes left to go in the session, but as you can see, with these GT3 cars, I mean, granted, it's narrow with an open-wheel car, but even with a little bit of body work around the tires and the suspension, it's a relatively narrow track. There are numerous passing zones, but the ability to run side by side for a prolonged period of time doesn't appear to exist. You can tell there's just not a lot of runoff room. There is a little bit of curbing these drivers could lean on and utilize, but you have the patch of grass. Then in some areas you have some gravel. Some areas you just have Armco barrier that's stacked about 3 or 4 layers high. So trying to stay out of trouble, especially if you're not able to qualify up in the first 2 rows, that may end up being the biggest key to the race for everybody in this field. And what a field it is. We have 25 cars that have taken time so far. As a matter of fact, looks as though we have about 28, make that 29 that were registered for the session, one of which, and Antonio Costantino, did not turn a lap in practice nor qualifying. So we'll see if Antonio elects to race here tonight. But it's a healthy field to close out this season, and you can tell right at the top of the scoring pylon how tight it can be. Less than a tenth and a half separate the front 3 with just under 3 minutes left to go. And it is the points leader in Chris Beach trying to overtake Jesse Webb and Nick Ledecky on the timing and scoring charts, trying to pick up a couple of insurance points, if you may, if he could claim top honors here in qualifying.
Yeah, and obviously the pressure is on for Jesse. Essentially, he has to get those points for pole position. You know, it's just 2 extra points, but it's 2 critical points for the driver, because obviously he needs to close that gap as much as possible during qualifying. And obviously, if he can bag the fastest lap of the race and win the race, that's going to be the ideal situation for him. But right now, he's just feeling the pressure. Obviously, he's driving the Audi, which we saw last week was by far one of the trickiest cars to drive. But, you know, if he can just pull himself another 400ths of a second, he can back himself on points. Chris Beats now looks like he's starting a lap. No, he's finishing a lap, I think. 2 minutes 0. Yeah, not the ideal lap time. He has time to go for another one, but just one more.
Yeah, the lap of record right now is a 1 minute 58.046 set by Ledecky. So pretty much if you're coming to the line now, this is going to be your final lap or your final attempt to better that time and steal those championship points away from the competition. Or if you're somebody like Beats and Webb, where it could end up paying huge dividends at some point in the season, or some of the drivers at the top of our amateur championship battle. This is your last shot, essentially. And your position on the racetrack, how far ahead or behind you may be from the rest of the competition or traffic on the venue. And now you're at that point in the qualifying session where one particular bobble will take away your opportunity on improving here, as Beats use all the available runoff there to drivers left. And you can see competitors there getting out of the way of the points leader, allowing him a clear pathway to close out this lap. And JP, he's going to be right on the edge perhaps of maybe getting another lap in. Not quite sure when Beats will get back to the line, but he's in the far side of the racetrack. He may have an opportunity here to get at least one more in if he is not happy with this result.
Yeah, he crossed the line with a minute, 2 minutes, I guess, to go. Obviously, if he can just bag it in on 158, he definitely is going to have enough time to do another one. But the question is going to be the tires. Are the tires overheating? You know, in qualifying, obviously, they're pushing into the limits. You're just scrubbing the tires on every single corner to trying to extract the most amount of time. But, you know, if he just has to, you know, he's just going to be pushing him for sure. Now, the question is going to be, he has 25 seconds, essentially, to make it to the line. I'm pretty sure he's going to do it, but is he going to complete the lap?
It's going to be very close here. It comes down to one of the hard-braking zones in what is the Casio Triangle, and it's going to try to get the power down. You can hear just how aggressive he's attacking the curves. It's going to be close as far as making it for one more lap as he comes to the stripe. And he's going to move up to second and have another lap to spare. Time's going to run out, but he should have enough here to lay down at least one more lap if the tires will let him. He cut the margin down to 22 thousandths of a second. That means you got 400 separating the top 3. For now, as Webb overcooks the corner and spins on his final lap.
Well, tell us about putting the best for last. Chris Beats, you know, I guess just applied unwanted pressure on Jesse Webb, and unfortunately he lost on the second to final corner, essentially. And what a shame, you know, he needed those points. Unfortunately, just lost on the exit of Spoon. You know, that's an easy thing to do in the Audi. But unfortunately for him, obviously Chris Beats now still pushing hard. Looks like he wants to get those 2 extra points for pole. Looks like the car just drifted on 4 wheels as he entered Degnal 1. Yeah, he's going to be abandoning lap time, so I guess we kind of can confirm Nick Ledecky as our pole sitter.
Yeah, a couple of cars do remain on track, including that of Sarah Rabb. And we mentioned Sarah was on the mend a little bit. We understand that she was a bit under the weather, and we are happy to say that she says she's feeling well, at least in the general chat on the Discord that we were able to find. And she's happy to be back in action. And if you go back and look at how Sarah's been running prior to the last couple of race absence that we saw from Sarah, the results have been improving each and every week. As a matter of fact, if you take out the 21st place finish he had at the Nürburgring, it was back-to-back top 10 finishes at Imola and Laguna Seca. And even though it was a bit of a black cloud over the first 4 races of the season, let's not forget she wrapped up the previous season with a top 10 finish as well at Sonoma. So Sarah Rabb there getting back to the power, going to be one of the last cars to come down for the checkered flag. Potentially, no, it's going to be a rehearsal of the pit entry, but it looks as though Rabb is going to round out our top 10. So Nick Ledecky, the spoiler of the field, taking away top honors and robbing the championship contenders of an additional 2 points here by winning the pole and qualifying for the season finale at Suzuka. And the margin between the top 4 was less than a half-tenth second, or a half a tenth of a second, I should say, perhaps giving us an indication of what we're going to see here come race time. And how about the weather? Very similar to what we have here in the Carolinas, as a matter of fact. A little bit high there in the 60s, 67.2 degrees Fahrenheit, clear skies, relatively calm winds out of the north, but the track temperature is going to be 71 degrees. Not too hot, not too slick. As a matter of fact, if I'm a spectator at this virtual event, like some of those virtual fans you see there in the grandstands, this is the perfect weather to come out and watch some sports car racing, and that's exactly what we're about to see once the field starts to populate here on the main straightaway and get set to go racing. So it sounds as though that there is still unofficially about 13 seconds or 10 seconds or so left in the session before they cut on over to our starting lineup. But Ledecky definitely spoiling the opportunity for Beats or Webb to draw first blood in this championship battle. And obviously, the story is trying to get the one that got away after crashing out of the lead at Road America. This is his opportunity at redemption. As the field is going to start to populate their way on the front straightaway, let's take a look at how they are going to line up for the final race of this season for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. Nick Ledecky trying to become just the 4th different winner on the season, while Chris Beats is going to try to cement a championship, see if he could win more than 50% of the competition, and stamp his name down as a champion. If he can go out and win today, he'll be starting on the outside of the front row. The other driver with a shot mathematically at the title, Jesse Webb, had to settle for 3rd in qualifying. 3rd was his worst finish this season. Trying to keep the podium streak alive is that of Webb, while James Hansen will start up on the outside of row number 2. He too also looking for his first win of the season, and will roll off car number 1 in 4th. Now to the inside of row number 3, Chris Brunnemer looking for a win to match the car number. He's going to line up in 5th in car 2. Outside, the highest running amateur driver and amateur point standings leader, Christian Gurgis. The 151 will start on the outside of row 3 in 6th. Row 4 is where you'll find Curtis Jones, who's been hot and cold throughout several portions of the season, trying to finish off the year as hot as he can. And Mikel Rudebusch, who finally seemed to have the bad luck streak behind him. That 22 will line up in 8th. And rounding out your top 10, John Weitendorf in car 24. And Sarah Rabb takes you through your top 10 starters.
Our second place championship standing on the amateur class, we do have Trevor Enders is going to be starting on P11. Unfortunately, he jumped Sven Hartman, who's going to be starting in 12th place. Definitely a comeback drive for him if he wants a shot at that championship. Corey Peters on the number 97 is going to be starting off from P13, right alongside Spencer Vick on the number 100. Alexander King on the number 164 is definitely going to be trying out to make a few positions as he lines himself alongside David Flanagan on the number 124. Running off our row number 9, we do have Wade Hayes on the number 83. He's going to be lining up right ahead of John McClintock on the number 123. And then finally finish up our top 20 on row number 10. We do have BC Voigt in 19th position, and in 20th position we do have the number 177 of Mick Blue.
As the cars begin to roll, let's look at the rest of this field. You got Jimmy Allen starting in 21st. The Miracle, Alan Roth starting in 22nd spot. George Toczek's going to roll off 23rd, 24th. Randall Ayers. Heading now to the last couple of rows of competition, we have Patrick Herring and Alex Trevor, 25th and 26th. And the last couple of cars to enter the session, although they did not turn lap times, Gavin Cohn, Jason Frisk take you back to the 28th spot. as we get set to go racing. Rounding out the field, Antonio Costantino, who did not take a lap in qualifying or in practice. So we'll see if Antonio is going to come down for green. We got a stacked field. We got stacked points all on top of each other. A lot to be decided, but this is the last chance to get the job done. It's going to be Nick Ledecky leading the top two in the championship to green for the final race of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And we are underway from Suzuka, and already we're nearly 3 wide for the lead, with Webb trying to go from third to first on the outside of turn 1. He makes the pass.
Jesse Webb absolutely timed that restart to perfection, because unfortunately for Nick Ledecky, he just didn't go on throttle on the start finish line, and Jesse Webb was in there to try and capitalize, and there he goes into P1 where he needs to finish, and Chris Beats unfortunately couldn't jump them and was forced on the outside of turn 1.
Boy, Ledecky there tried to keep it up alongside through turn number 2, but had to concede defeat by the time they got up to the S-curves for the first time. He's back to second with Webb the leader. Working their way now to the mid-sector of the track for the first time. Also, you have to keep in mind, Ledecky knows what's at stake for the competition. He's sandwiched between the dominant 2 drivers of the series. Perhaps he lifted a little bit earlier there that time to cut Webb a break, but is he going to be so nice as he draws closer to the back bumper of Webb's car coming through the far side of the track at the Spoon Curve? They're going to come back up to the power here. As a matter of fact, it was off the hairpin, I should say. Now coming through the right-hander, Spoon Curve lies ahead. And Webb is starting to gap Ledecky a little bit here as they now approach turns 13 and 14 for the first time. Ledecky using all the available running room there as they'll get back on the power and come down this long straightaway with the left-handed kink up next.
Obviously, they're going for, I guess, one of the fearless corners on this Suzuka circuit. They're going through 130R. Now, the question is, are they going to be taking it flat out on the first lap? I don't think it is. The tire is obviously not up to temperature. The car is heavy on fuel. Looks like everybody makes it through, but Chris Beats, unfortunately, still sits in P3. Looks like now he closed the gap really close to Nick Ledecky and trying to find any gap possible to try and overtake. Obviously, he needs to finish second. He needs to get as close to Jesse Webb as possible to keep his championship alive. And, well, what a first lap.
Unbelievable job by Jesse Webb to go from third to first in the opening 2 corners. And he's got the lead here on lap number 1. Next item on the agenda, perhaps, is going to be to try to set the fastest lap of this race. And with clear traffic ahead and no traffic up ahead to kind of disrupt his flow, this may be an opportunity for him to do just that. But Ledecky's keeping him honest, and Beats is not that far behind as well. Hansen and Brunnemer take you through your top 5 after 1 lap. We're on board with Webb here. Now looking back from Ledecky, who sees how far back Beats could be running. About 3 car lengths here, as you see some of the beautiful scenery that surrounds this virtual layout. We mentioned it's not only a fan favorite, but a driver favorite as well, and you can see why. This track truly has a little bit of everything attached to it, and that's why it is setting the stage for a thrilling finale. And even though we're already 3 minutes in, we've already had some pretty high-intensity moments as Ledecky, real late on the braking there through the hairpin that time, closed up a little bit on Webb, but Webb's going to beat him off the corner.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like Nick Ledecky is really strong out of Degna 2 going under the own circuit, actually, and obviously going into their hairpin. It looks like Jesse Webb might be going a bit cautious there, as Chris Beats looks like he's struggling on the first 2 seconds. Spencer Vick going around on their hairpin. Looks like the McLaren. I'm not pretty sure if that was a driver error. Unfortunately, he made contact with someone, but we're going to get a replay right now really shortly to see what happened to the driver.
Spencer Vick, the driver who was 3rd in the amateur standings, having problems early in this race. Fortunately for Vick, no major damage, it appeared, to that McLaren. One of the few McLarens in the field, as a matter of fact, is that of Vick. And you can see here, he's got Corey Peters up in front. He comes to the inside and bounces off another car and spins him down to the inside guardrail, hits that 3-tier layer of protective barrier at relatively slow speed, gets it right at the tail end of the pack, but no major damage, or at least no evident damage to that of Vick, after he bounced off the left rear of a fellow competitor on the exit of the corner while they were battling for position up ahead of him. And now Curtis Jones has had a problem. He was running up in the top 10, and it's Jones who has gone around. So the problems have started to kick off for some of our competitors. That was coming through the Casio Triangle by the pit entrance, and now it is Jones who is the next car to have trouble.
So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. I'm pretty sure that's car contact as well, because normally you don't see the car getting lost. Oh, looks like he just left the door a bit too wide open, and unfortunately for him, he got collected by another Audi. Not pretty sure who collected him, but that's an unfortunate beginning of a race to Curtis Jones, running well, and unfortunately for him, he's going to have to do a comeback race from now on, but I'm sure he has the pace to climb back a few positions.
Heads-up job there by Sarah Rabb to be able to avoid there. You saw her squirt by to take over the 7th spot. And now we're taking a look here at Christian Gurgis, who is up into the 6th position. Currently trying to chase down Chris Brunnemer for 5th. But remember, Gurgis is the driver who leads the amateur standings. And currently the highest running amateur driver, with Sarah Rabb beginning to close in there in 7th spot. And Trevor Anderson, JP Costa, I'm going to give you credit with this one. We saw Anderson maybe not have the best of qualifying runs, at least not fresh off of the 2nd place finish he had a week ago. But that BMW has been able to keep his nose clean in the first 5 minutes of this race, pressuring Sarah Rabb for 7th. This may kind of emulate the run that we saw out of Anderson last week at Bathurst, starting to steadily and quietly work his way up through the field. And we got Ledecky, who's been able to get up and around Jesse Webb. And you saw Webb there with a little bit of a flash of the lights. Not sure if that was out of frustration, perhaps. But Ledecky has gone to the point. Clips the grass there a little bit with the right side of the car. But at the line here, it's going to be Ledecky who set the fastest lap a lap ago to the point. JP, let's see how he got it done. Well, we'll take a look here as Ledecky is now trying to in the slipstream of Jesse Webb. This is getting on the binders. Coming through the left-hander here at the Spoon Curve. Gets a good run here out of the 2nd quarter of the Spoon Curve at turn 14. Now he's on the slipstream here at this very high-speed straightaway, and that very fast left-handed kink that JP was talking about earlier comes up here quickly, and it's not the most opportune passing zone. This may be why Webb could have been a little bit perturbed by this move. Pulls it down to the bottom, makes the pass, and Webb immediately starts flashing the lights there at Ledecky. Perhaps not a fan of that move. Could be a little bit of frustration we're seeing out of the driver who's 2nd in points, and he'll keep that one in the back pocket for the time being. And now we got more trouble on the racetrack. Patrick Herring in a very precarious position. He's going to find an opening in the racetrack to get that car rewrited. And the troubles continue. Hats off to our crew and our team being able to stack up all the replays that we have for you here with all that's been going on from spin outs and lead changes. Unfortunately, though, for Herring, this one looks as though it might be all on his own. We're following Herring here through this sector of the racetrack. Maybe try to draw up on the inside of that BMW. Very fortunate that he did not take the car up alongside with him when he spun out of contention here. And that might have been George Tacek, who also went a little bit sideways there, that Herring bounced off the right side of his car. So once again, hats off to our production team and Emerson Arden for being able to pull up all these replays here, as there has been so much happening in just the first 10 minutes of this final race of the 2021, or at least this segment of the 2021 Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And the hot and heavy racing continues as Sarah Rabb spins out on the exit of that Casio Triangle. Sauer was running in the top 10. We were watching the side-by-side battle behind between that of Anderson and company. I believe it was Sven Hartman who got up and around Anderson there, and Rabb just lost it. And try to go back and take a look at what happened to Sauer here. This is coming through the final corner, or I should say the final corner of the chicane that is the Casio Triangle. You see Anderson run a little bit wide. Hartman has a look. They draw even side by side coming onto the braking zone. And here's where Rabb is just going to... Looks like Sarah Rabb caught too much curbing there with the left side tires, and that's what spun the car sideways and drop kicked Sarah Rabb out of the top 10. So Sarah is going to plummet down the running order at the line last time through from 7th to 19th. So what a heartbreaker for Sarah Rabb. Fortunately, though, she's got a lot of time to be able to make it up through the pack while we go back up and look at the leaders. So keep in mind, at the end of qualifying, this top 3 was separated by less than 0.05 of a second. Right now, they're separated by about 1.5 seconds on the racetrack. And since taking the lead, big mistake there by Webb, overcooking the corner there through the Spoon Curve, and had to use all the available runoff at his disposal, and that's going to allow Beets an opportunity to close up. Looking back now from Webb to Chris Beets. running in opposite order as they came into tonight in the championship. And if you've been with us throughout the season on these broadcasts, there is a ton of, ooh, boy, that was a huge bobble by Webb there. Was just about to mention the fact that there has been a ton of mutual respect between these competitors, especially considering the fact that at times they've had some of the closest racing that you could find in a GT platform on some of the most difficult of venues. If you're looking for more entertainment, just go on back and watch the round that took place earlier at about the midway portion of the season at Imola. It was round number 5, where Webb and Beats were pretty much inseparable all throughout the night. They ran side by side through turn 4 on the final lap, and it was an uncharacteristic mistake on the night by Webb that pushed him off the racetrack and allowed Beats a chance to get by. And it was nothing but admiration for one another in the post-race interviews, and that's been the trend all throughout the year. Even though these drivers are vying for so much, they all seem to respect one another's craft as sim racers, and you love to see it. Oftentimes, there can be finger pointing and name calling and so much, especially when these drivers are racing for what they are. Not with these guys. They happen to love what they do on these Monday nights, and you can see why. It's been pretty solid stuff. As far as what they are racing for, we talked about the pro classes and what's up for grabs, and we're on board with the Pro Championship points leader. If Chris Beats could seal the deal tonight, $85 and 3 liveries from Sarah Rab, is one of the supporting sponsors of this series. That would go to the first place driver in the pro standings, who right now Beats holds that honor. The runner-up is going to get $65, while third place will get $40 for their third place effort in pro points. For the amateurs, it's a similar story. First place is going to be a $30 gift card and 3 liveries from Sarah Rab as well. Second place will be a $20 gift card to the PSRC web store. And third place will get a $10 gift card to the PSRC web store as well. And they have a lot of unique merchandise over on that PSRC web store. Had a chance to browse through it and check it out. Maybe get myself some, my own merch when all's said and done, especially to support these guys and the shows that they put on here on Pit Stop TV every Monday night. Also, they've got some additional prizes, including random draws and raffles that are set off based by points, valued for $9 and $6, depending on where you finish in the championship standings. And they have season prizes as well. Most improved driver, most positions gained, and cleanest driver, each getting 1 livery from Tam Livery, another proud sponsor and supporter of the series. And of course, Benke Cinematography, another proud sponsor of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. It's because of all those partners that we have the opportunity to see the racing that we have, and that these drivers have a little bit more to race for than just pride. You see Sarah Rab, who is one of those proud sponsors, offering up her services to our top few drivers in pro and amateur rankings at the end of tonight. But right now, she is focused forward, trying to climb up the running order. Still scored 18th after the spin out of the top 10, but still a long way to go for Sarah to make up time in the running order, while Ledecky continues to lead the field. So it's Ledecky, Webb, Beats your top 3. Got some fierce racing going on throughout the pack, and if you're new to watching some of this coverage of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, one of the biggest elements of this race that we talk about is pit stops. And typically with the fuel load in which these drivers compete on in a sprint race format, as we watch James Hansen try to fend off Chris Brunnemer for a race for 4th, you'll typically see the strategy shift depending on the track and depending on where the drivers are running. Usually when you get past the halfway point, which we're about 15 minutes shy from, you'll see some drivers who may elect to come down early, especially if they sustained any damage in the opening part of this event. Or you'll see some drivers stretch it as far as they possibly can, maybe even to the last quarter of this 60-minute affair. That level of pit strategy, a driver's ability to perfect the overcut, undercut, as well as their in-lap and out-lap, usually goes a long way as far as determining who stands on the top step of the podium in these events, and we expect tonight to be no different. As Hansen leads Brunnemer up into the chicane, they're going to come around and put another lap on the board. Burgess just behind in 6th. Sven Hartman's had a spectacular climb up through the running order, 12th to 7th, followed by Anderson, Peters, and Alexander King, who's gone from 15th to 10th, rounding out your top 10 for the time being.
Looks like the driver to watch right now is Sven Hartman. Obviously, his title challenge against Christian Gerges is obviously one to watch. They're only 2 points separated. And obviously, Sven Hartman, he's starting in P12. He's all the way up in 7th. He passed everybody, including Trevor Anderson, to find himself in that position. Right now, he only has one job, and it is to pass Christian Gerges. Obviously, he finds himself a few seconds behind, but you know, as someone who has climbed as many positions as he did, I'm pretty sure that's an extra boost to his confidence.
Absolutely, and watching Sven Hartman being able to drive his way up through the front of the pack here, and think back to when Sarah Rabb had that spin, Hartman was running side by side with Anderson for that spot, and fortunately was able to drive his way through the incident relatively cleanly, and that's been the key to Hartman's race. There's been a little bit of conflict around him throughout the night so far, none of which have swept up one of the drivers who is fighting diligently to try to finish in a pretty high up running position when it comes down to the championship standings at the end of tonight's contest. And Hartman right now is leading this 3, soon to be 4 car fight that is kind of holding up 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th on the racetrack.
And we do have a change for second place. Chris Beats on the exit of Dagenham 2 found himself ahead of Jesse Webb, who unfortunately made a small mistake going a bit too wide. And right now we do have another upset for our championship second place in the championship right now. Jesse Webb looks like, oh, unfortunately he spins out on the exit of 130 yard. That is extremely disappointing.
Oh, and Webb is now sitting broadside to traffic. What is he going to do here? Webb is going to take the tow back to the pit area. It looks like that may be it for Jesse Webb and his championship honor, perhaps to try to overtake Beats in some capacity. And ironically, it happens in the same corner where Webb lost the lead earlier tonight, and he did not appear to be too pleased with that move. This time it was while trying to keep pace with Beats. And I was noticing, JP, he had enough of a run to fill up the mirror of Beats, and it looked as though that he exercised a little bit of driver's etiquette and stayed on the tire tracks instead of trying to force the issue to his championship rival. And the back end of the car stepped out on him once he hit the curbs coming through 15.
Yeah, exactly. You're just gonna see now on your replay, as you can see there, he hits the corner pretty much perfectly, but on the exit, unfortunately, the wheels just dips on the AstroTurf, and unfortunately, that was enough to spin the Audi. And due to the position that he found himself in, there's absolutely no way you can come back on the circuit safely. So unfortunately for the driver, he had to take the tow, and he's going to be losing a few laps. As you can see now on the onboard, he could have gone for the move at the exit of the spoon curve, but decided not to. Got a great run on the exit, but unfortunately for him, just carrying a bit too much speed.
It's going to give us a good idea here as we're on board with Jesse Webb and the Audi, as he has this big run on Beats, and he doesn't even try to fill up the mirror and try to take him off his game a little bit here, and just gets the right side tires on that grass that wraps around the exit of that curbing and does a great job to keep it out of the barrier. Gave it an opportunity before he suddenly realized he was in the bad spot and took the tow back to the pit area, despite what it may have done to his championship hopes here tonight. And driver etiquette is something that we want to talk about. This field is made up of a number of drivers who, you know, obviously are very well-versed in their own right, as Sarah Rabb appears to have had another problem. But, you know, for somebody like Jesse Webb, with all that was on the line there, we saw when he lost the lead, him kind of flickering with the lights a little bit to let Nick Ledecky know he may not have appreciated where that pass took place. And then there, with so much, if I was in his shoes and I was sitting in that position perpendicular to the racing surface, I'm pretty sure that the inexperienced driver in me would have knee-jerk reacted to try to get going in the right way and probably would have taken somebody else out in the process. It says a lot about Jesse Webb and his talent, his situational awareness to elect to take the tow back as quickly as he did and not cause a massive accident for other drivers who are racing for so much here tonight, even in the form of heartbreak that Webb must be experiencing watching the season unravel, and he is certainly due to get his worst finish of the year. Granted, we talked about how he's not only second in points, but Webb has never finished off the podium in this 9-race season so far, and it appears that tonight that result is, you know, just going to have to be.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately for him, the race actually started pretty well, but, you know, just unfortunately didn't go his way. Obviously, that's racing. It's not always going to go your way. What he has to do is just bounce back, you know, stronger next season. Just come back, you know, as not a stronger driver, because he's already very strong. Just, you know, kind of minimizing the few mistakes that he unfortunately had during the season. But I'm sure he can do it. He's a fantastic driver, fantastic human being. And, you know, as you said, perfect driver etiquette to just stay there and unfortunately take the tow. He knows it's going to cost him the championship, but he knew it was the right thing to do to not cause the wreck of other drivers, and that's something you just have to take your hat off.
Yeah, it definitely says a lot about Jesse Webb and his ability to be able to understand the situation he's in, and will still end up runner-up in the championship standings according to my own official math, which is obviously never the greatest. But for Chris Beets, boy, this certainly takes a lot of pressure off. And now we've been focusing a lot, obviously, on the championship. If we were to switch back into race mode here, this bit of an incident for Webb has now changed the complexion of this whole race. And here's why. The fact that Webb is no longer pressuring Chris Beets, it already appears to be relative on the lap times. I mean, Nick Ledecky has just extended the lead as John McClintock has crashed in the same spot where Webb had his problems a few laps ago. So McClintock, though, is going to be able to drive away, but that looks very similar to what happened to Webb a lap ago. But with Beets not now having pressure from behind, he's lost about a second plus to this driver, your leader, in Nick Ledecky. Now, here's something else that Ledecky needs to consider. We've seen Ledecky make critical mistakes while running in this position at the lead of a pack in one of these highly contested fields. He knows that the pressure from behind is not going to be as heavy as it was to start this race. He has to make sure he makes it to the finish, and he will be in contention for his first win of the season to cap off this campaign for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And I think the incident with Webb has not only impacted the potential outcome of this championship, but it's also going to change things up as far as how the rest of this race unfolds.
Yeah, exactly. This obviously, as you said, takes a lot of pressure out of both drivers, because Nick has absolutely no need right now to push. He has an over 4.5 second lead over Chris Beets. Chris has absolutely no reason to risk his championship, obviously, to ruin his car, essentially. I'm sure he wants to finish on the podium and, you know, just celebrate essentially his title win there, but, you know, he just doesn't have to push. Obviously, the drivers behind him do. As you can see now, a battle for third position as Chris Brunnemer unfortunately cannot find a way past, as we do have another car. Looks like Sarah Rebb, third mistake, third spin for her during this race. The first, obviously, on the last chicane, the second around spoon, and now unfortunately on the hairpin, looks like it. So that's a bit unfortunate for her. Hopefully she can bounce back from those small and odd mistakes that we are not used from seeing for her.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, and granted, we're not privy to details, and we wouldn't share them even if we were, but we do know that Sarah was out the last couple of weeks because she was a bit on the mend, and we were so happy to have her back. The pace was there, the speed was there, but can't really blame her for having a couple of missteps here tonight. Obviously, was in no condition to perhaps put in a couple of the hours of practice that the rest of the competition has on the sim and on this track, so hopefully she's going to be able to fight all the way down to the finish. Somebody, though, who will not have that opportunity is that of Jesse Webb. Sad to report that Webb has retired from the event, disconnected from the session, and it looks as though his race is going to end at about 27th spot for the driver who was tied atop the wins list for this season coming into tonight with 4 wins apiece with Chris Beets, who held the championship lead, as we see George Toczyk on the pit lane here. About 7 minutes shy of halfway. Ledecky still leading over the points leader in Chris Beets. James Hansen, the new driver, rounding out our podium for the time being. But Hansen has his hands full with Chris Brunnemer, who was the winner at Sebring 2 rounds ago. So Brunnemer trying to end his season on the high note with a podium finish, trying to get around a driver in which he's very familiar with, and that of Hansen, and this the fight for third.
Yeah, they've been tied together since lap 1, and I'm pretty sure this is not going away anytime soon. I'm sure Chris wants to find a way past him. I'm not pretty sure if he's quicker and he can pull away, but I'm sure he's kind of feeling a little bit, I guess, frustrated, not finding a way past. Obviously, sometimes they're just faster in the wrong part of the circuit, but these drivers have been going head to toe for the last 12 laps, and I can't see this ending soon.
Yeah, this is one of those battles for position on the racetrack that may come down to pit strategy, even though we typically keep our eyes on that for some of the front runners and whatnot. But now that we know the agenda of the top 2, this is probably going to be the most hectic race on the racetrack. And granted, they're 6 seconds behind the runner-up at the time being in Chris Beets, but they are 4 seconds ahead of this driver. And we've been mentioning championships throughout the night, how Chris Beets has a certain agenda. And pretty much that agenda throughout the night was to keep Jesse Webb, you know, at least directly out of his windshield or directly in the rearview mirror. For this driver, Kristen Gurgis, it's a bit of a different agenda. With the points margin being just 2 points, the driver who is literally chasing him on the racetrack in Sven Hartmann Gurgis has to keep his foot in it all the way through. The pressure is there in the fact that Hartman is that close to him. And keep in mind, granted, we don't expect it because it's pretty much been pro drivers who've been setting the fast laps in these races. The fastest lap of the race award, or I should say the fastest lap set, does earn a 3-point additional bonus. So if Hartman has to get desperate at any point, he could try to attack some of those quick lap times. And that would be an opportunity to perhaps leapfrog in the standings. And he'd still have to rest on position, obviously. But it's another element of how things may shake out when the checkered flag flies tonight for this amateur championship battle, being as close as it is. And as luck would have it, they're running 1 and 2 on the racetrack for the amateurs, 5th and 6th in the overall, respectively.
Yeah, these drivers have been going as well. You know, as soon as as soon as Sven Hartman went all the way up into P6 and obviously a position behind his championship rival in 5th place, they have been going head to tail on lap times. I was just looking at their lap times. Christian Gurgis went 0.5 of a second quicker in the final lap, as Sven Hartman exactly matched to the 1,000th of a second on his previous one. So they're still in the stalemate, I guess, of 4 seconds. Obviously, Sven Hartman is still feeling the pressure of Trevor Anderson right behind him, but, you know, anything can happen. You know, even a small mistake can just push you wide, can put these drivers, again, closer than ever. And as you said, the driver that finishes ahead of each other is pretty much going to be the championship, the champion. So, you know, just track position is going to be absolutely key for this battle.
And it's probably going to continue all the way down to the checkered flag. And we've already seen elements. When you hear of this racetrack, you don't necessarily think of it to be one that is known for catching a driver off guard. But we've seen that happen on multiple occasions tonight. And let's take this opportunity here to do a little bit of recapping, shall we? So we're approaching the halfway point of the season finale for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series here on Pit Stop TV. And so far, we've had storylines aplenty. Coming into the night, Chris Beets, the championship points leader, boasted a 21-point lead over Jesse Webb, his closest pursuer. But in qualifying, Nick Ledecky was the spoiler. He set the quick time and pretty much lost the lead to Webb in what may go down as the pass of the year. From 3rd to 1st on the outside in turns 1 and 2, eventually had the preferred line at turn 3, and that kicked Ledecky back to 2nd. Didn't take Ledecky long, though, to take the lead back. That's where he's been since making the pass at turn 15, about a quarter of the way through this race. However, Webb and Beets got to tangling for 2nd spot, and while trying to keep pace with Beets after losing the runner-up position, Jesse Webb crashed coming through turn 15 and retired from the event. Now, while that's the story for the pros, the amateur drivers continue to run nose to tail, at least in a timing and scoring perspective, not necessarily literally on the racetrack. But Christian Gurgis and Sven Hartman are 5th and 6th on the overall. They, too, have their own championship they are vying for, and we are starting to inch closer to that pit window opening. A lot on the line for these drivers and competitors, a lot to look forward to in this final or second half of this race, and a lot still to be decided. As far as drivers who have had problems and misfortune, as we mentioned, Antonio Costantino did not turn a lap in qualifying. We did not see him turn a lap in this race. Gavin Cohn also did not take the green flag. Jesse Webb, the first driver who was on track that is retired from competition. All remaining cars are on the lead lap. However, George Toczyk, Patrick Herring, Curtis Jones have all had problems. We've seen Sarah Rabb have a couple of mistakes. Sarah is currently mired back in 18th, and there's still a lot of racing left to go as we nearly hit halfway, and Ledecky is trying to maintain this lead all the way to the checkers.
And a few things that I found funny. You know, Sven Hartman right now, it looks like he's closing the gap. It was 4 seconds 2 laps ago, and right now it's closer than he caught up a second. And obviously Trevor Henderson's just following him behind, trying to, I guess, seal a mistake, probably just thinking about strategy, which wouldn't be ideal for Sven. But if he can keep up that pace, you know, just for the next few laps, he could be finding himself on the back end of his championship rival before the pit stop window. As you said, you know, this could be the I guess the championship move for these guys, and well, it's definitely one to keep an eye out for.
So we're on board here with Hartman, and now Curtis Jones has crashed again. This time, the Casio Triangle claims another one, it appears. That's just shy of the pit entry, which is pretty much there to driver's right as he goes by. This will be the second time that Jones has had an off. The first one came while running up in the top 10. This one comes, though, while being mired well down in the running order. He's going to lose a few more spots and fall down to nearly the last car on the lead lap. And let's go back and see what happened to Jones. We mentioned he was coming out of the hairpin here, leading up to the final corner. This is approaching the braking zone, which has been a bit of a trouble spot for a few competitors here tonight. Now back on the power, clips the curbing here, runs off a little bit wide, and yes, oh, that's a hard hit. Did not expect him to carry so much speed into that barrier, and that may be worth some concern there as far as how much damage he took to the front end of that race car.
Yeah, that was definitely a hard hit. I'm not pretty sure if he dipped the rear wheel on the dirt. Sorry, on the exit. Looks like he did. Unfortunately, that unsettled the car. And you know, on iRacing, the gravel does not stop your car. It's pretty much ice. And unfortunately for him, the wall was just a bit too close. And as you said, that was a lot of speed he was carrying. So I'm expecting to see him going down pit road sooner than the other cars are trying to get the damage fixed.
Yeah, that was something we were alluding to earlier when it comes to pit strategy. Sometimes it's dictated by the fact that if you suffer damage in an earlier incident, it would benefit you to come in early, get that damage repaired, and then utilize the maximum amount of time remaining in the race to get you to the end on your fuel number, but also know that your car is at the very least going to run at maximum performance possible once you get the car repaired. So let's drop back here a little bit and take a look at this battle that started to materialize here. I say materialize, it's pretty much been going on all race long between Sven Hartmann and Trevor Anderson. They've already touched on the fact that Anderson, I don't want to use the term shock the world because the pace has been there with top 10 finishes, but an impressive runner-up finish. First and only podium on the season thus far last week at Bathurst, but after qualifying just outside the top 10, working his way on up to 7th, now chasing Sven Hartmann down. This is another one of those circumstances where situational awareness may start to show itself. Is Anderson going to be willing to send it up the inside or outside of Hartmann, even if he doesn't have the exact amount of momentum needed to complete a pass, knowing that Hartmann is racing for an amateur title? Driver etiquette is going to come into the frame here again if Anderson can continue to draw even closer, or perhaps this driver in Anderson may try to force Hartmann into a bit of a mistake. He's got a big run here coming down this straightaway, heading up to the very fast left-hander at turn 15.
He just forced him into a mistake. Ooh, looks like Sven Hartmann dipped a wheel on the entry at 130R. Looks like the pressure might be getting to him as Trevor Anderson now gets closer than ever on his rival. Obviously, as you said, they're two different classes. Trevor Anderson has absolutely nothing to do with the title battle. I'm pretty sure he just wants to finish as high as possible. So, you know, for him, it's just going to be another race. Obviously, Sven Hartmann has to think about the title. He has to get as close to Christian Gerges, and obviously he has to pass him. So keeping Trevor Anderson behind is essential. But, you know, some drivers just do risk it all. Is Trevor Anderson faster than Christian and can get close enough? You know, if that's the case, it could be worth just dropping back and allowing the faster driver to just reel you into your rival and just probably, you know, just trying to pounce as soon as Trevor can get past. But obviously, there's a lot of things going on his head. I'm sure Sven is thinking about a lot of different scenarios right now. And, well, the pressure can get to him. Hopefully it doesn't, as he's still missing a few apexes here and there. Just, you know, just trying to keep it together.
And this, of course, turning into one of the best races for position that we've had. The battle for third has settled down for the time being. So right now, Ledecky leads by a pretty substantial margin for the time being, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, even though he's utilizing all the available runoff there through that little mid-sector that separates Spoon Curve. Ledecky still appears to be pressing rather hard. Beats a solid second. Then he got to double the margin back to Brunnemer, who holds down third. Here's Beats running by himself. That may be exactly what he's looking for. Brunnemer has opened up a little bit of breathing room on Hansen since taking that third spot away. Hansen trying to remain in the fight. He'll have a little bit of a slipstream here, but Christian Gerges is starting to close up, though. Remember that gap back to this battle was 6 seconds at one point. He's cut it down to 4 as Ledecky remains on track. But here's Gerges starting to reel in those drivers for a podium spot. That would be a bit of an exclamation point. Stamp your name on the trophy as the amateur champion with perhaps your first and only podium of the season and the overall. That would be a great storyline for Gerges if he could pull it off.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure he wants to finish on the overall podium. I mean, who doesn't? But, you know, something just came up. I'm not pretty sure if Sven is watching the stream, but he just allowed his rival, Trevor Anderson, right now to just get past him on the exit of the hairpin. He just pulled up to the side, let off the gas, and allowed Trevor Anderson to essentially just drive by. So I'm not pretty sure if he's doing what I said, essentially just allowing Trevor, using Trevor as a helping guide, essentially to get him closer to his rival. Obviously, Christian Gerges is just pulling in the lap times, getting closer and closer to James Hansen. So, you know, desperate times sometimes call for desperate measures, and that's might just be what we're seeing from Sven Hartmann.
Yeah, Hartman maybe did not want to deal with the pressure. The problem is Corey Peters is starting to close up relatively quickly on these two. It looks as though they were losing some time to that of Peters, who is having a really good run in 2021 himself. Peters, who started off the season with a top 10 at Donington Park, still looking for his first top 5 of the season, but has been on a bit of a run since finishing 10th at the Nürburgring, 8th at Sebring, and then 3 spots shy of his 3rd consecutive top 10 at Bathurst. That was with a bit of misfortune at one point in that race, so no surprise that Peters is running well up here in the top 10, trying to better his best finish of the season, which was 6th at Spa. He needs to pick up at least 2 spots to tie that, and those 2 spots are right out in front of him as he is closing in on both Anderson and Hartman as they work the far side of the track.
Yeah, exactly. He, you know, he can pull up another spinner in the mix. Looks like he has the pace. It looks like Sven Hartmann right now is just struggling with his race car, just dropping out of the pace. You know, you can see now the gap that he has to Trevor Anderson, who was less than 0.3 of a second the last lap. So I'm not pretty sure something is happening to Sven. Obviously, he has to keep it together if he wants any shot at that championship lead. But Trevor Anderson right now, he's on the hunt. You know, as we said last week, and as we said today, you cannot write him off. You know, who knows if he can catch Christian Gerges and James Hansen, and you know, maybe he can fight for an overall podium. He was behind Sven Hartmann for most of the race so far, so I'm sure he has a lot of fuel saved. Maybe going for that extra lap, you know, putting 5 or 6 liters less on a car could make really the difference and really get you closer to the next battle.
We're also starting to close up on potential pit stops as we hit about the 23-minute to go mark here for the season finale for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. And Ledecky, though, is on a bit of a clinic. However, he obviously, especially as the time window starts to wind down, is possibly starting to have some flashbacks of some of the misfortune he's had this season. We already highlighted the fact that Ledecky, who has missed 3 races on the campaign, had a podium finish to kick off the season at Donington. Then at Road America was the fastest car all session long, through practice, through qualifying, into the race time, before dipping a wheel off in the high-speed kink and crashing out of the lead to finish 37th. After missing Detroit, he came back with back-to-back third-place finishes at both Spa and Imola. Did not race Laguna Seca, did not race at the Nürburgring. Bounced back with an 11th place run at Sebring after bouncing back from some misfortune. And then Bathurst as well was involved in an early race crash that took him out of contention. It has been feast or famine for Nick Ledecky. He continues to open up the margin, the lead now up to 7 seconds. And judging by the amount of curb he's using here through the final few corners, Ledecky only knows one speed, go. And he is doing just that. He continues to rip off some really fast lap times as the pit stop begins to loom in this final stage of the race upcoming.
Yeah, looks like Nick Ledecky is just on his groove right now. No, just putting in essentially qualifying lap times right now because he's just on the absolute limit. Obviously, we do have Chris Beats right now in 2nd. Looks like he's not willing to push as hard as he went nearly a second slower last lap. You know, Nick Ledecky just doing his homework. Obviously, some drivers just feel comfortable on the limit. You know, they might minimize the mistakes, and you know, hopefully he can. You know, that will be the greatest comeback I think we saw this season. Crashing out on lap 1 of the previous race. You know, just coming out and putting in the qualifying session, leading pretty much most of the race. Unfortunately, not every lap for him, and just putting in fastest lap time after fastest lap time. Just, you know, just showing the grid how it's done on the finale.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible performance. Perhaps trying to go down as one of the best outright dominating performances of the season. We've had a couple of those for sure in 2021, but we're starting to see here Alan Roth. We'll drop back to him. And one of the unique things about the broadcast that we have the opportunity, and I would say privilege, to put up here on Pit Stop TV, we have a number of crew members, and Monday is usually a pretty busy night. We got another race that takes off here on the East Coast at about 8 p.m. Eastern time, with this event following at about 10 p.m. Eastern. And every everybody who is on the payroll at Pit Stop loves this series for so many reasons. Tonight, I'm the one fortunate enough to be here for this finale, and Eric Brennan, JP Costas, the other voice you've been hearing, Emerson Arden, who has been busy cranking up the replays, and all the incredible pictures that you're seeing across social media is courtesy of our very own Corey Rexford. But everybody across the platform wants to be part of this program because of how much fun it is. And every time that you look at Alan Roth, he typically has a whole section of cheerleaders at the virtual grandstands cheering him on the YouTube platform. They've been quiet the last couple of weeks, but we know that they're still there. And he's one of the drivers who is truly here for the fun of it. And if he can keep the nose clean, he's able to rack off, or I should say rack up, a couple of really strong finishes. Tonight, though, Roth just trying to finish the season in one piece, currently running back at 17th spot, chasing down Sarab, who, as we mentioned, tried to rebound from a few mistakes earlier. And as we enter the final third of this race, Roth and Rab are the two fighting for position just outside the top 15.
Yeah, looks like Sarah Rabji unfortunately came past Alan Roth, our fan favorite driver, on this lap. On the beginning of the lap, it looks like a small mistake by Alan, unfortunately costing P16. As we do have a car spun around, looks like Patrick Hearing on the exit of 130R. That was really close to two cars, unfortunately for him. He looks like he lost it all the way on the entry of the corner. No, it looks like a carbon. No, yep, a McLaren just unfortunately lost for him. But looks like he's safely back on the circuit, as now you're going to see a replay of what happened to, unfortunately, Patrick Hearing finding himself a lap down on 26th spot. As you can see now, unfortunately, just lost a car on entry, essentially. Just the McLaren doing McLaren type stuff. If you drive on iRacing and you drive this car, you know how dangerous it can be and how tricky. And unfortunately, Patrick just showed us the dangers of driving this car.
Yeah, and that's starting to become the trouble spot. Not sure if it's turn 15 or if it's the Casio Triangle that have claimed more victims here tonight. There's certainly none more scary than a high-speed left-handed kink there that leads him up to that final chicane. But that's caught off guards from all different varying levels of experience and stature in the series. And it looks as though that Herring was the latest victim of that term. As we have a quick look here at Hansen, who's starting to fall back a ways from that fight for the third spot, with Christian Gurgis waiting in the wings here, trying to pounce. And this is where pit strategy is going to become ultra important. Now, the overcut and the undercut, or at least that facet of it, as Hansen runs off here, that's a high speed off at that portion of the racetrack we were just talking about. Kept his foot in it, will hold the spot for now, but that was another near miss there at that very tricky turn.
I'm pretty sure his heart rate just went all the way up, a spike on heart rate as he lost the car essentially on entry. But luckily for him, kept it composed, came in back on the tarmac before the tarmac was over and the grass started. So essential driving for him. And well, he keeps his position, but obviously Christian Gurgis edging ever closer, lap after lap. Last lap over 1 second quicker, obviously due to the mistake, but you know, just one mistake can cost you a lot of time. It can cost you your confidence, and hopefully, you know, James Hansen can pull his confidence back up on his level that he wasn't qualifying, and you know, just pull away from Christian. But I'm sure Christian right now is just feeling a lot better, seeing that gap just edging closer and closer, seeing that number just coming down and down, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see a battle really soon on the racetrack.
That sector of the racetrack reminds me so much of the lead up to the chase at Bathurst that we had a week ago, where even though it's a right-handed corner, you really want to fade out left. And there's at Bathurst, there's a little bit of asphalt to drivers left between the point where the grass starts to is traditionally set at, and then it starts to expand for that entry point where that wider arc. Here, it's the opposite effect. They're preparing for the sharp left-handed corner. Drivers are fading out right, but there isn't that little bit of additional forgiveness on the right-hand side, that if you catch the right-hand tires into the grass by any stretch, you have that high-speed oops that we just saw Hansen have. We also saw Herring have that a little bit earlier on, and I think that's what's catching some of these guys off guard. On the contrary, as we're getting set to approach that corner once again on board with Gurgis, on the contrary, we also see drivers who maybe hit the apex a little bit too sharply on drivers left, and that kicks him sideways and makes him have a massive off. But we'll see how that unfolds for the rest of the week. But I think the first domino has fallen as far as pit stops, because the leader and dominator, and Nick Ledecky, is on the pit lane for his scheduled stop. Mark it down with 16 minutes to go. Ledecky is going to pull up into his #1 pit stall by virtue of his pole earlier tonight, and Chris Beets followed him right on in from second.
And Chris Burnham, the only car on the top 5 essentially to not go into the pit lane. Now it looks like James Hansen has also. The Audis looks like they have an extra bit of mileage over the Lamborghinis, as now Nick Ledecky finds himself on the exit of the pit lane. Looks like he finds himself on clear road, which is essential, as Chris Beets does the same. But looks like the Audis, as you can see now, Christian Gerger is also on pit lane, so it looks like the Audis have 1 extra lap of fuel compared to the Lamborghinis, which is interesting since they're essentially the same car. But Nick Ledecky retains this provisional first place, and Chris Beets still on second. But now it's the question: can Chris Burnham, close the gap to Beets and maybe challenge for a second place finish?
Would be really interesting, and at this point, Beets does not have all that much to lose if he was not to finish in the second spot. And we talked about the podium streak that Jesse Webb was on. Well, Chris Beets is on a similar podium streak as well. He too has not finished worse than third in a race this season. As a matter of fact, Beets only finished third spot once, and that was last week at Bathurst. The only time that he finished outside the top 2 was just 1 week ago. So Beets may want to try to keep that top 3 finishing streak intact, but he could give up that second spot relatively easily and pretty much still have this championship in hand, with Webb having his problems. Brunnemer, though, still on the racetrack. As we mentioned, he's yet to pit. There is a lap car up ahead, though, who may be a bit of a factor here. I believe that's Spencer Vick in the 100 just ahead, and that may force Brunnemer's hand to come down this time with 14 minutes to go. And we'll see if this overcut opportunity did in fact work out in Brunnemer's favor, as that is Spencer Vick just ahead. Hansen here also in line. Perhaps we'll see if he elects to come with Brunnemer if they choose to pit this time. Hansen coming in now. Looks as though Brunnemer has also peeled off of the pit lane, so we'll see what this additional lap has done for these two, as they've been battling for third pretty much all throughout the night, trying to close up on Ledecky and Beets, who were the top 2 pretty much all night long.
Chris Burnham on the pit lane just pretty much came to a stop on the entry, essentially on the line that determines the new lap. So that was kind of funny to see. Unfortunately, he's going to be losing a bit of time due to that. So anytime he might have gained doing the overcut, he might have lost, as it looks like James Hansen now jumps ahead of Chris Burnham. As Chris is stuck on the pit lane, Trevor Anderson as well jumps him.
Yeah, not sure there if there was some damage perhaps to that car that we did not know about, or perhaps they miscalculated on the fuel number. That car is still sitting on the pit lane. Look at him plummet down the running order, as some of the other lead lap cars that have come down already have passed him. And now the report that we're getting for the production truck is that this is a penalty for being too fast on the entrance to pit road. So Brunnemer may have just sped his way out of a podium finish. He lights up the tires on exit, and he's fallen out of the top 10.
That is absolutely heartbreaking for our once podium finisher, and I'm sure he's going to be kicking himself over that. But right now, he has absolutely no time for that. Unfortunately, he served, I'm pretty sure, what was a 40-second penalty, as now it looks like Sarah Rabb finds herself on pit lane, as so does Curtis Jones. But, that's unfortunate for him. Right now, he finds himself all the way down in P15, right behind BC Voigt. Yep. And unfortunately for him, that's going to be another comeback drive. Let's see if he can finish on the top 10 at least and salvage another decent race position.
The separation back to John Whitendorf, who was 4th in points, was about 100 markers. So Brunnemer may still be safe in 3rd in the championship standings, even with the subpar effort here tonight. But when you're talking about wanting to have momentum going into what may be a short offseason for these guys, a podium finish would have gone a long way as opposed to being buried in the pack like Brunnemer finds himself now, especially knowing that he had a car that had 3rd place pace. You got a spin there off the hairpin. I believe that might have been John McClintock. It was for the 2nd time tonight going around. Trying to rejoin here. Just got into the fence yet again. McClintock's going to try to rejoin the pack here as we come up on the final 11.5 minutes of this race with Ledecky, Beats, and new third-place runner in James Hansen. Now on the podium with the amateur points leader, Christian Gurgis, starting to flirt with the potential of a podium effort here, trying to wrap up what could be an amateur title with Trevor Anderson now up in the top 5.
Yeah, Christian Gurgis, I'm pretty sure is so happy right now seeing James Hansen, and essentially that P3 position just coming ever so slightly closer lap after lap. And obviously right now Trevor Anderson, you know, he's also getting closer and closer to Christian Gurgis, and he could be finding himself on the podium for the second straight week if he can close the gap to both drivers ahead of him. But unfortunately, another big loss in the pit window was Van Hartman. Now finds himself all the way behind Corey Peters and John Winterdorf. So right now finding himself all the way down in 8th. So all that good, essentially those positions that he gained in the first few laps, unfortunately that all went up into flames after the pit stop. So right now he has a massive task, a massive mountain to climb if he still wants to grab that championship title.
And that's an excellent point there, JP. I actually lost track of the fact that Hartman lost spots in the pit lane. And we mentioned the gap coming into tonight was just 2 points between himself and Gurgis. So far, Gurgis has had a picture-perfect night. It's been pretty incredible to watch Gurgis run so well, especially considering the fact that he did not race at the Nürburgring, but courtesy of the top 5 at Sebring, as well as a couple of top 10s throughout the season as well. Gurgis trying to have his best finish of the season come on the night in which it matters most, trying to beat that guy. Here's Gurgis, though, closing up on Hansen for a podium spot. And we are going to keep our eyes on this race as Ledecky seems to have the field at hand as we close in on the final 10 minutes of this race. Let's take this opportunity to thank some of the partners here at Pit Stop TV who help make these races possible here with the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. First off, we will start with our friends at the Sound Art Tucson, because remember, it's your picture, your music. It's an incredible product where you provide the image that you want, and they will create a custom, beautiful, high-quality frame canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker, because with Sound Art, you get the best of both worlds. Check out their products and services at soundarttucson.com. Sorry, let me reread that there. TucsonSoundArt.com. And make sure that you use the promo code PitStopTV, all one word, at checkout to receive 10% off your purchase. PitStopTV.com, website TucsonSoundArt.com. We're also brought to you by Race Pace. If you ever wish that you could have a race engineer on speed dial, like I always need when I'm on the sim, this is your opportunity. With Race Pace, a driver development service, set up shop all in one. Work with our buddy Tyler, a real race engineer. Step up your game before your next race and pick up the pace with Race Pace. We're also presented by Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, because when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. Visit their website, permanentmakeupinmaine.com, to learn more about their personalized products and services. And finally, Whiplash Media, the parent organization of Pit Stop TV, responsible for the stream overlays, camera packs you see tonight, and so much more. They also have a very existing presence in real-world racing, and you can learn more about all that Whiplash Media has to offer at whiplash-media.com. It's because of them we're able to do this, bring you some of the best road racing that you can find on the platform of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and we still got some heavy and intense battling going on the racetrack with Corey Peters trying to fend off the competition from John Wittendorf, who has moved up into the 7th spot, trying to get around Peters here, heading up to that high-speed left-hander at 15.
He's going to be putting the car side by side. Looks like he's not going to be committing to the apex, but looks like he pushes the Lamborghini just a bit too wide. Luckily for him, the Lamborghini does not get loose, just like the Autos that we have seen before. But right now, he's putting the Lamborghini under pressure. He's not going to be getting the best of exits, as Corey Peters absolutely perfectly parks it on the apex. But looks like John Winterdorf might just have the small edge on straight line speed as he's closing and closing. He's going to be looking on the outside or the inside. He's going to be looking to the inside of turn 1. Is he going to get the move done? He is. Corey Peters unfortunately has to back out, and that's going to be putting him under pressure from Sven Hartman, who just finds himself just a tiny bit behind these two, as now Corey Peters is back on the attack as they go through the S's.
Yeah, Hartman is trying to play the role of the benefactor here. If he can close up on both of them for this spot, may not help him in the championship if Gurgis continues to run up in 4th position. Speaking of, Gurgis continues to close that gap up on Hansen in the race for the final spot on the podium. while Weitendorf has moved up to 6th, Peters 7th, Hartman 8th, Wade Hayes is a name that we have not talked about too much here tonight. He's running in 9th, and Alexander King, your top 10. But look at this, Gurgis closing up quickly now as they come to the hairpin on Hansen for that podium spot. Boy, JP, if I'm Gurgis, I'm not quite sure what's in the back of my mind here. The fact that I want to end this season on a podium for an amateur driver, or the fact that I could sew up perhaps an amateur championship by staying right where I'm at here in 4th. That podium finish would sure be nice to wrap up the season with.
Yeah, exactly. Being an amateur driver, obviously, and finishing on the overall podium would be absolutely fantastic. And obviously, it's just, I guess, one of the best ways to finish up the season, winning a championship, finishing on the overall podium, chasing down some pro drivers, getting your best result of the season. Also, just the overall package for the driver. And I'm pretty sure Christian right now is thinking about that. I'm pretty sure he has the confidence that he's not going to be making a mistake anytime soon. We haven't seen a mistake from him all race long, but and it's just good to be able to see the driver ahead, just coming closer and closer each and every single lap. And I'm sure he's feeling excited, for the next few laps. Obviously, he only has 5 minutes left, so if he wants a shot at that podium, he has to absolutely put the pedal to the metal.
So at a quick glance at my stat sheet, the best finish of the season for an amateur driver was 5th, and it happened twice. It looks as though that it was Sven Hartman who finished 5th at Laguna Seca, and also last week, Spencer Vick had a top 5 finish in the 5th spot at Bathurst. So Gurgis is trying to sew up his championship in his amateur ranking unofficially. Granted, there's a lot of math to be done when the checkered flag falls, but he's trying to keep himself ahead of the rest of the field with what may be the best finish to date of an amateur driver in all of 2021. And also, obviously, it would be the first podium for an amateur competitor if Hansen can, in fact, or I should say, if Gurgis can, in fact, get up and around Hansen for that 3rd spot in the waning 4 minutes of this race.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like he's just going to be... It could be going down to the wire, could be going to the last lap, because as I'm looking through the time standings, looks like they're just pretty much trading off lap times, just tenths of a second closer and closer, but looks like it could be getting under that 2-second mark, and as soon as it gets under that 2-second mark, the pressure starts settling in on the driver ahead, and well, it's just a few laps to go, less than 2 laps to go at this moment, so anything can happen right now. I'm really excited for these next few laps, as Nick Ledecky obviously is over 9 seconds ahead of Chris Beets. This is the battle that we want to see right now.
So while they continue to fight for 3rd, here's the story of the race. Nick Ledecky, and as we took a look at the entry list, the people who signed up and registered for this series and this championship at the beginning of the season, Ledecky was a name which automatically jumped off the map and right into your face as far as somebody to watch, as far as a contender and a threat to win, and perhaps at the time maybe even take the championship. But as we mentioned, due to numerous schedule conflicts and what essentially turned into a part-time schedule, of which produced a podium finish in 30% of the races that he contested. As a matter of fact, I'd say it was 30% of the races that were ran. He was on the podium 3 of the 9 times that he strapped into this car in this series, and but never had the opportunity to stand on the top step of the podium. And in our lead-in tonight, we mentioned that this is, of course, the final opportunity to lay claim to top honors in a series which has earned a reputation for its competitive nature and just how difficult it is with this caliber of a field to put together a full-fledged, solid winning performance from start to finish, whether we're talking about a 60-minute sprint race or perhaps some of the 1.5 to 2 hour plus endurance events that we've had here before this season. Right now, Ledecky appears to be 2 minutes away, maybe 2 laps away, depending on the time in which he gets back to the line. It could actually even be the white flag, and it may be the white flag here as we are under 1 minute and 55 to go. Ledecky could be 1 lap away from finally sewing up that opportunity, and he will come to the line here with 1 lap to go in order to finally capture victory in this season, one of which that he has been ultra competitive in all throughout 2021.
Yes, exactly. Only 5.8 kilometers left for his first win. I guess better late than ever. As you said, I'm pretty sure I cannot say even better than you, even if I tried. But An absolutely roller coaster of a ride for his season. Obviously the last race, unfortunately for him, he could have probably fought for the lead even. I'm pretty sure he could, but unfortunately a small mistake, and well, what a way to bounce back. Not a single mistake throughout the race. I guess the only mistake was, I guess, a mistimed start by his part, but other than that, fantastic performance all night long. And well, driver of the day for me, easily the driver of the day, just pulling up a 9-second gap on Chris Beats. I mean, I guess that just says it all.
Ever Chris Beats, this is going to be an opportunity, perhaps, we'll call it unofficially, but it appears as though that even the craziest of mad circumstances will not be able to take this one away from him. A chance to wrap up the championship after doing everything he had to do, keeping his nose clean, even at times when the competition may have stepped over the line a little bit and trying to follow him through at certain sectors of the racetrack. And for Beats, who is going to end the season potentially if things stay as they are with 4 wins on the season and a championship in this caliber and class for fields, what a story it is for him. However, for Ledecky, as he continues to work his way through the final few sectors of this racetrack, knowing that he came into this race with absolutely nothing to lose, he now boasts a 10-second advantage over the competition with a handful of corners to go. The lap traffic has cleared the way here as he approaches now the final chicane for the last time here tonight. He started on pole, lost the lead on the opening lap, took it back away in the high-speed sector on turn 15 a couple laps later and never looked back. It may have taken a while, but the one that got away finally comes back to Nick Ledecky. He wins the season finale for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series. It's Ledecky the winner, and Chris Beats will come to the line in second spot. He will finish on the podium all season long and capture himself a pro championship in Pacific Challenge GT3 competition. And for the final spot on the podium, Gurgis is going to send it way in deep here to try to get up to third, but it's not going to happen. While Hansen is going to be able to come home and round out your podium, it's going to be Gurgis grabbing the highest finish of the season for an amateur driver and unofficially claiming the amateur title in GT3 competition. What a season finale.
As you said, what a season finale. Things happening all throughout the race. And as you can tell, I have a massive smile on my face. I apologize if you cannot understand the words, but what a finale. Every single driver now looks like Sven Hartmann just finished off in P8. Wade Hayes finished off in 9th place. Alexander King looks like he's going to round off our top 10. And what a season. What a race. And looks like Alexander King unfortunately disconnected on the final lap. So looks like we're going to have Chris Brunnemer finish on the top 10. So I guess what a comeback drive for him. Unfortunately, after that small mistake on the pit road, coming back for a top 10 is always a good point. And, well, what a race, what a season, what a series, what a couple of drivers. Fantastic throughout the field. Every single driver celebrating. It's just amazing to see, amazing to commentate. I'm just so happy right now.
There's a lot of people who share in your joy, JP, including some of our drivers who captured top honors here today. Sarah Rabb makes it to the finish, and a proper send-off to her race for sure as she bins it on the front straightaway for what would be the 4th and final tie. But here is the man of the hour, and judging by the burnouts, I guess you could pretty much say it's official. I'm not sure that there's any type of equation that could take this one away from him. Chris Beats did everything he had to do tonight. And after watching the incident with Jesse Webb happen behind him in the rearview mirror, Beats just kept it on the road, kept it clean all the way down with the checkered flag, and is burning down the house in the land of the rising sun as the champion of the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series for this stint of the 2021 calendar. We're going to have an opportunity to hear from our champion, hear from our winner, hear from our podium finishers, and perhaps even our amateur champion as well, as Christian Gurgis is looking for an opportunity to set the world on fire as well in celebration. We're not done yet. When we come back here to Suzuka, we are going to talk to all of our front runners after an amazing season finale next on Pit Stop TV.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Back here at the virtual Suzuka circuit here on Pit Stop TV, where we just wrapped up what we expected to be a bit of a thrilling finale for the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series in their first season of the 2021 calendar year. And boy, it may not have unfolded the way in which we originally thought, but all the way down to the wire, it was in fact a thriller. And it is the driver who came into the night with the point lead who was able to celebrate with multiple burnouts all across this 3.61 mile racetrack as our champion. Had to settle for a runner-up finish, but this driver finished on the podium in every race this season, only driver to be able to do that. He captured 4 wins on the season, but it was the performance tonight, which unofficially, I'm not even going to say unofficially anymore, because there's no way that any mathematical equation could take this one away from our champion. Chris Beats, we've talked so much throughout this season with all the success you've had in wins, podiums. Pretty much every week we've had a conversation, but none of which carried as much weight as this one. You are the champion, my friend. How good are you feeling right now?
I'm relieved. I'm kind of glad it's all over. It's been a long 10 weeks. I'm just happy that I managed to do it clean and not in any dramatic fashion.
Now, series organizers do a great job, in my opinion, as far as weighting the performance of everybody in this series. And because of that, there was a lot of variables going into this race as far as how this championship complexion was going to play out. We cranked out a lot of scenarios, a lot of numbers. We leaned on the word unofficial a lot all the way up into the introduction of this interview, just because we weren't exactly sure. With that, did you have an agenda or a game plan or a goal? Were you specifically just focusing on finishing ahead of one driver, or was the goal just to do what you've done every week, and that's just go out and try to smoke the field?
The goal was to finish no farther back than one place from Jesse and run a clean race. And if I was any farther back, I think the points sort of swung in his favor. So staying with Jesse was the goal, and to keep it clean. And I did that, and it eventually led to his mistake, and here we are.
Now, the mistake was actually leading into our next question. You're coming through that very fast left-hander. We call it turn 15, and You know, you got the pass made on him cleanly. Looked as though he was trying to follow you and keep pace with you, maybe for an opportunity to get you back by the time you got up to the chicane. And it looks like he caught too much curbing, and the car just stepped out from under him. Did you see that in your rearview mirror? And when you did, if you did, what was going through your mind?
Well, I mean, a lot of weight was lifted off my shoulders after the fact, but I actually went in too hot. I lifted, and I don't know if my lift is what caused him to spin the car or not, but I was very close to doing the same thing, and I think he got caught out since he was so close behind my car.
That corner caught out a lot of people tonight, and at that point, of course, Webb unable to continue on after that. From there, was the goal to just stay where you were, or were you kind of tempted to try to see if you could match the pace of Ledecky, who was pretty dominant all throughout the evening?
Nope, it was 95%. Save the car, make sure you get it to the end. If Nick crashed or anything crazy happened, I was going to be close enough to do something about it, but otherwise it was just time trial run, keep it safe.
Well, you played it out to perfection, Chris, and even though we don't have the final margin as far as the point standings, I'll leave that up into the hands of those who crunch the calculators for your end, but we do know that you, in fact, are the champion. As we mentioned, 4 wins, tied for most on the season, only driver to finish on the podium in every race. I know a lot of people go into making this possible for you. You shout them out each and every week that you're on with us here, celebrating some of your front-running finishers, but who do you have to thank for this championship effort and all the hard work that went into making it possible?
My wife always, PSM for the Pacific Sim Motorsport for always the camaraderie and the practice that we do. We work on setups together. Definitely make for a competitive couple like top 10s for all of the cars. I think we captured the AM Championship as well. Skull Sim Gear, their little button box has been fairly handy. And as always for Mikkel as well for the great racing paints that we've got on the cars.
Well, it looks as though you're going to be taking home top honors, all the prizes, the contingency awards that they have up for grabs for first in the pro category. Chris Beats, what a job, man. All season, all night. Congratulations. Take some time to go enjoy this one. I'm sure you're going to be sleeping really, really good tonight, buddy, and you earned it. Great job.
Thank you very much. You guys put on a great show, and thank you very much for all your work.
Thanks a lot, Chris. We really appreciate that. Congratulations once again, Chris Beats. Runner-up tonight once the checkered flag fell, but first, where it mattered in the championship standings in our finale. And it's hard to look at a 10-race stretch any differently after having all those podium finishes all throughout a season. That's about as perfect as you could be in a field of this caliber. Now, the driver who did cross the finish line in first, finally getting that elusive victory, our 4th different winner on the season. To hear from our winner, Nick Ledecky, I'll turn it over to JP Costa.
Well, Nick, absolutely fantastic to talk to you as a winner. Finally, I guess that's a long time coming. Tell us, how do you feel?
Extremely relieved after dropping the ball at especially Road America. It's nice to finally come back and win one.
Well, obviously, yeah, as you said, after last week wasn't ideal. Lap 1, unfortunately, you were out, but what a way to bounce back. Obviously, let's start in qualifying. Pole position. How did that lap happen?
Well, I was actually confused because I got done in my quickest lap. I got a nice draft off of Jesse Webb. It was just overall a really clean lap. But when I came back into pits, I looked and I didn't even have I had the setup from Bathurst on. So after that, I had a little bit more hope and I'm like, oh, I should probably be quicker on the Suzuka, and just never made any more gains after that. But overall, yeah, that initial lap was just really clean, smooth, and that's what I needed to get pole.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad that it worked. And obviously, at the beginning, I was looking right from Jesse Webb's cam, and unfortunately, it looks like you hesitated a bit on the start, and unfortunately, that cost you obviously P1. So, can you just tell us what happened to clear things out?
Yeah, so I just laid back from the pace car a little bit, so that way I could have it would be more of my decision on when to go. And then I was actually worried, since I'd gotten in front of the pace car when we still hadn't seen the green. I got extremely worried that I was going to end up getting a penalty for that. Didn't end up being the case, but I backed off the gas just in case that did happen. I didn't want to throw away yet another race.
Well, and obviously, luckily, that didn't happen. You didn't get a penalty, and unfortunately, you saw yourself on P2. And then, obviously, I guess one of the highlights was just Jesse Webb after you passed him, unfortunately losing it on 130R. What was your view on the instant?
I was watching the relative and saw him all of a sudden just drop out of the board, but he was not in sight, so I didn't really get to see what happened. And I was worried maybe he had just hit it absurdly early, but that didn't make sense either. So I was just sort of confused at what had happened.
Well, and obviously, as after you got past him, no one even saw you on the racetrack. You were just flying, and well, were you just in a groove and just in a momentum? You were putting fastest lap after fastest lap at one point. Just is that how you feel? Confident on the car, just not laying back, just keep pushing it into the line.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when I start laying back and slowing down, it just opens up the door for you to make mistakes. You're not doing what you do consistently when you practice, when you do any other race. So sort of, I look at it like, why switch it up?
Okay, yeah, absolutely, that works a lot, and well, I'm glad it worked for you. It's so nice to see you on victory lane. And who do you have to thank for this fantastic race?
Just everybody that's been watching this whole season. My girlfriend Audra, the Beck family, a lot of my buddies from Cincy, Quinto, Peter, and really my whole family for supporting my passion for racing.
Well, that is fantastic. Thank you for this finale. Thank you for participating on the season. It was great talking to you, and I guess I can hopefully talk to you on the next season, and hopefully plenty of time more.
Hopefully. Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Well, that was Nick Ludecki, our race winner, our first-time race winner, our fourth race winner of the season, and are going to be passing off back to Eric for our amateur champion, Christian Gerges. Back to you, Eric.
Thanks a lot, JP, and it's a pleasure to welcome the driver who came to the checkered flag fourth in the overall, but highest in the amateur rankings, and most importantly, highest unofficially. And I keep using the word unofficially just because there's so much math to calculate, but I'm pretty confident in this one. Christian Gerges. And Christian, I have to admit, in looking at the box score and how your season played out, you're somebody who the second half of the season, things just started to click. I mean, for the most part, how proud are you as to not only you, but your team? You also got a shout out earlier from Chris Beats mentioning how you guys all seem to work really well together in this series. How proud are you of the effort that you were able to put forth and really rocket your way up the amateur standings in the latter portion of the season?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm amazingly proud of that. It's this is the first time I ran GT3 cars in iRacing, and first time I ran a league. And I think a couple races in, I was very error prone, making a lot of mistakes, not finishing races. I think it was after Detroit. I looked at the standings and I was like, I should really just get my act together and try to win this. And then I was putting in a little bit more practice, trying to take it easy in the races, not run over my pace, and just keep it in control and finish. Even if I have to lose a spot here and there, it's fine. You just need to finish.
Well, finish you did fourth. You were right on the back bumper of Hansen there for the podium spot. What was your agenda, though, knowing the circumstances, knowing the names of the drivers that you kind of wanted to see in your rearview mirror throughout the night? Was your goal to just try to be best in class throughout the evening, or were you really itching to jump up there and grab that podium?
No, I never even thought about it, honestly. I was actually dreading catching up to another car because that would force me to make a decision, and I didn't want to make a decision, so I just wanted to... the right thing for the championship was to just bring it home, and that's what I wanted to do.
Well, you got the job done, and en route, you also put on record the best finish of an amateur driver this season. Saved it for the last race of the year, which I think kind of classifies what this is all about. Fourth was the highest effort that an amateur competitor had. Prior, it was fifth twice. But for you, the multi-class element of this series is something that they introduced, and I think it did a great job as far as giving us other items to watch. Granted, you're the champion, so I would assume you're going to have a positive outlook on this, but what are your thoughts as far as kind of splitting you guys up a little bit as far as experience level and allowing a different rewards and incentives for drivers who don't have the maximum amount of experience or iRating, I would say, and give you all something to kind of race for all throughout the pack?
No, I think it worked, and honestly, I probably would have thought twice if I didn't know going in that I'm going to have something to compete for, because if all you're going to compete for is like the top three overall, it gets a little bit tough in the midfield. You don't really have much to go after a couple of races, so super motivating for me to even enter the championship, knowing that there is something that I can reasonably compete for and try to get better. And I don't want to be an amateur forever. I want want to move on to the pros next half and next league and see what I can do there.
Well, judging by the results, the performance, especially tonight, you were right up there with the top running drivers in the field, kept your nose clean all night. I promise you, you are well on your way, and you have a lot to be proud of, but I'm sure you don't do it alone. Who do you have to thank for making this championship effort possible for you in this season and this competition?
Everybody at PSM, honestly, Pacific Sim Motorsports, they got me into this. They pulled me into the league. They pulled me into the cars, and even... I think it was Saturday I was practicing and I entered one of the VRS official races, and Chris Beats came on. He spotted me. He pointed out a couple mistakes that I'm making and showed me a better line, and I picked up like 4/10 right after that session. So you're right. I didn't do this alone, and I probably wouldn't have stuck with it if it weren't for the team around me.
Well, we're glad you did, and I'm just before I let you go, I have to do this because I'm sure we're going to be saying your name a lot more. I want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. What is the correct pronunciation of your last name?
It's a lot easier than it looks. That's what I tell people. It's Gergis. It's just it's basically it's the Arabic name for George. So Gergis.
That's perfect. And we learned something today. Not only that you're a champion, but now we know how to say your name. Christian Gergis, congratulations, man. Thank you for being a good sport. Take some time to celebrate this one, buddy.
Thanks so much. Pleasure being here and pleasure listening to you all season. I always watch the broadcasts after the race.
We really appreciate that, Christian. Great job on the championship of the amateurs, man.
Thank you.
And again, Christian Gergis, he just set the record straight. I got it written down phonetically. We're good to go. We got one more driver to talk to, though, and that's the driver who came home for his second podium of the season. JP Costa is standing by with James Hansen.
So James, what a way to finish off the season. Obviously a podium is always welcome, but on the last race, I guess it kind of feels special, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was a nice way to close out the season. I've had a kind of a bad run the last few races, so I don't think I finished the last 4 races or so from crashing out and various problems. So yeah, it was a pleasant way to finish out the season.
Absolutely. It's so great to talk to you again. Obviously, starting qualifying, obviously very important. And you're finishing 4th place. Absolutely standout qualifying. How did it feel? How did you put that lap in?
It felt really good. I got comfortable with the quali setup. I had some issues when I was falling behind Beats on the first few laps. But once I was able to settle in and get some free air, I was finally able to put a good lap together.
And obviously you had a race-long battle with Brunnemer up until the pit stop, obviously. And what was the strategy? Were you thinking about letting him go at any point in time, just trying to save fuel, or just track position was your main goal throughout the first stint?
I told him he needed to pass me. I was tired of helping him to save fuel. He was sticking behind me. I mean, I was able to keep pace ahead of him for a while, but then I had a little off at the 130R when he was able to get ahead. But I think he had a penalty in the pits, and that's when I was able to pass him.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately for him, I'm pretty sure he sped on the pit lane, and that cost him any chance to fighting for the podium. But obviously, that
not my favorite way to get a podium.
Yeah, that ended up gifting you the podium. But you came under a lot of pressure from Christian on the final few laps. Just how were you managing that pressure?
Not well for a while. I was losing a lot of traction through Spoon and then 130R, and he was cutting off quite a bit of time there. Last 2 laps, though, I was able to settle in and actually get a decent line through Spoon and then 130R, and just enough to keep him back until the end of the race. I think he finished 1 second behind, something like that.
Well, actually, close. 6/6 of a second behind you.
All right.
And obviously, this sets you up, I guess, with a nice bit of confidence for the next season, doesn't it?
Yeah, it should be fun to adjust to a car with even less assists. I'm looking forward to the 4th.
Well, if you're driving the Porsche, that's definitely going to be very interesting. I cannot seem to get the grips of it. But who do you have to thank for this amazing season and obviously this amazing result here tonight?
I like to thank everybody in the league. I'm an admin on the league, and it's been a really long 10 weeks for everyone. I'd like to thank my wife and my 2 cats, Sophie and Gigi. I think that covers everyone.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations on your season. Well, it wasn't the greatest of season. I'm sure next season is going to be better, but congratulations on your result here tonight. Hopefully, we can talk to you again next season and plenty of times.
Thank you. I hope so too.
Well, that rounds off our podium interviews with James Hansen, our third place finisher, running off our podium. And back to you, Eric.
Thanks a lot, JP. You just got to love just the dialect. Granted, everybody we talked to had something to be happy about tonight, but just everybody just seems to be in just such a great mood. And I don't know if I was anything, worse than first, if I would be that giddy and that happy. We spoke to 3 drivers who have first to celebrate: our champion in our pros and Chris Beats, our champion in our amateurs, Christian Gurgis, as well as our overall winner, and Nick Ledecky, and also James Hansen. Sound pretty thrilled with his second podium finish of the year, that is. So let's see how the rest of the field came to the checkered flag. Being that we got a quick glimpse at some of the front-running competitors. As you heard from Ledecky, Beats, Hansen, your podium. Gurgis, your champion for the amateurs. Trevor Anderson, fresh off the second-place finish last week with a fifth-place run here tonight in Suzuka. That's a great way for Trevor to cap off his season. He really came on hot at the end of the year. John Whitendorf with the sixth-place run, somebody who we thought would be in contention for numerous wins throughout the season. Fourth unofficially in the standings, perhaps, right up there with Anderson in the top 5 in the points. Whitendorf comes home in 6th. Corey Peters, 7th. Sven Hartman, who was in contention for the amateur title down to the very last few laps of this race, had to settle for 8th. Will probably end up about 2nd in amateur points when all said and done. Wade Hayes in 9th, and Chris Brunemer, who we heard had the speeding penalty on pit road, was in contention for a podium spot. One of the drivers who won this season had to settle for 10th in the running order.
David Flanagan is going to finish off in P11, right ahead of Mick Blue in P12. BC Voigt, after finding out a few fights of him, unfortunately is going to finish only a second behind Mick Blue for in 13th spot. Alex Treber, after not qualifying and starting 26th place, is going to find himself in P14. Jimmy Allen, again another driver making a lot of inroads, finish off in P15. Alan Rolfe, our fan favorite, is going to be finish off in 16th place. Mikael Ruderbusch, a disappointing race for him, starting off in 8th, but unfortunately finished off in 17th place. John McClintock is going to be starting exactly where he qualified on P18. Sarah Rabb, after numerous instances, unfortunately for her, is going to be finished off in P19. And in P20, our top 20 is going to be George Bitacek, the last driver not to be lapped by our race winner.
Now we get into a number of drivers that we ended up having a lot of problems throughout this race. Alexander King was up in the top 10 all night long, disconnected from the session on the last lap. Not sure what happened there.
Looks like we lost Eric there for a second, but Alexander King is going to be finished off in P11. Spencer Vick in P12. Curtis Jones, another disappointing, unfortunately for him, a number of mistakes out at exit of 130R. And the last chicane. In 24th place, we're going to have Randall Ayers. Patrick Heron is going to be finished off in P25. And Jason Frisk, unfortunately, him and Jesse Webb, unfortunately, did not finish the race, both finishing 10 laps down and 22 laps down, unfortunately. And Antonio Constantino and Gavin Cohn, unfortunately, did not take the green flag. Well, and that was our grid. That was our finishing position for tonight's race, the season finale. And back to Eric for our final thoughts.
Yeah, what an amazing season. What an amazing race. What an amazing team. I cannot thank everybody enough at Pit Stop TV. JP and I think we have the easy part. We get to talk about what we see and what you, the viewers, see and what the competitors go back and look at. But I really want to tip my cap to Emerson Arden, who I've gotten to work with on the production side pretty much throughout this whole campaign. And as you can tell, tonight is just a small glimpse as to all the hard work that goes into making this happen. All the replays he had to queue up, all the action we had to follow. That's pretty much Emerson. Corey Rexford, who does all of our social stuff, he kind of helps as a spotter to kind of pick up some things that we may not see initially. And it's because of those two that I believe that JP and I have such an easy job calling these races. And it's been an absolute blast. Everybody from top to bottom at the series, we appreciate the opportunity to work for you guys. We hope we get to do this again going into the future. But for now, thank you to everyone who made this possible. On the series side, Tam Livery, Liveries by Sarah Rabb, Benke Symptography, and we'll give one more shout out to our partners on the platform as well, because if it wasn't for them, I'm not sure we would be able to do this either. It starts at the very top with our friends at Tucson Sound Art. Remember, your picture, your music. Let's see if I get the URL right this time. It's right in front of me, TucsonSoundArt.com. Use the promo code PitStopTV so they know that we sent you, and you'll save 10% on your next order, TucsonSoundArt.com. We're also brought to you by Race Pace, because you can pick up the pace with Race Pace, but it's a truly community-driven setup, shop, and driver development program. The Discord is available on the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. Remember, pick up the pace with Race Pace. We're also partnered up with Permanent Makeup in Maine, because you deserve the best care that money can buy. PermanentMakeupInMaine.com to learn more. And finally, Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV. For more information on their services, visit whiplash-media.com. And I'll extend one more thank you to some people who make this possible. I want to give a shout out to the boss himself, Andrew Cardinale IV, who does a lot of the wheeling and dealing to make these races happen. And we mentioned some of those camera packs. He worked extremely hard to get some of those done here today, as he does every week. Thank you to him as well. And also thank you for the opportunity. JP, before we sign off air for the last time this season, my friend, what do you got?
Well, as I said, we just gotta thank, as you said, we get the easy part, just commentating these amazing races. We do have battles throughout the grid, and just, on the interviews, everybody's just so happy to be a part of this. It's just one of the reasons that, we get to do this. Is just amazing, so rewarding, and definitely one up for me. I definitely don't complain about staying all the way up into 2 a.m. in the morning here in Brazil to commentate this. And well, as you said, we hope to do this again, because this is just so much fun. This is one of the reasons we look forward to Monday. And yeah, hope to talk to each and every single one of these guys. Some of them have seen me on official races. It's just, nice to see that, it's a nice close community that we have that is always open for new drivers. And well, it's kind of a close family, and it's nice to be a part of it.
I echo those same sentiments, brother, and I love working with you as well, man. Hopefully we get to do this again soon. But for now, it's been a great season. It's been a fun ride. Thanks for taking us along, Pacific Challenge GT3 Series, and thank you to those of you for watching. Hopefully we'll see you next time. We've got more racing on the platform coming up throughout the coming days. It's actually going to continue on tomorrow with Operation E Motorsport, more sports car racing, this time at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. If you're into NASCAR stock cars, we're going to take the Bluegrass iRacing Series on the Charlotte Roval on Wednesday, and then we're off for a few days. So we're back in action with the BRP iRacing Series next Monday night at the Fairbury American Legion Speedway. For more information, just check it on out at Facebook.com, Twitter.com, Twitch.tv, YouTube.com. Just search out Pit Stop TV to see all that we got going on. But for now, on behalf of everybody at Pit Stop TV, I'm Eric Brennan. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.